So, NaLyssa Smith. It's just always the case. But, NaLyssa Smith never helps herself with some of the things that she says.
In a startling change of events, did NaLyssa Smith just dump the Indiana Fever? After being moved to Dallas, the former Fever star couldn't help but take one final shot at her former team.
Forgot to mention, NaLyssa Smith is gone. If you're the Fever, how great do you feel about that? My goodness, finally.
But this is where things start to get interesting. Sophie Cunningham is going to Indy, and she's bringing a lot more than just her explosive three-point range. Are you prepared to dive into the drama and see why this trade could be a game changer for the Fever? Smith plays the victim and makes a parting shot that has raised eyebrows throughout the league. The Fever may have just pulled off the steal of the century.
I got frustrated watching her play, and she represented, I think, the remnants of anything else that was wrong with the team, right? From the Christie Sides era and everything. And last year was a good year, all things considered. Wish her the best. But I actually think the Fever get great return here, considering I don't know where all these people think NaLyssa Smith's value was so high all of a sudden, given the way she played.
Recall that the Indiana Fever believed they had struck gold when NaLyssa Smith emerged as the second overall pick in the 2022 WNBA draft. Finding a player who could change their team, but sometimes even the best players in this league can fade quickly. Let's go back to Smith's early days. In her first 2 seasons, she averaged a strong 13 points and 8 rebounds per game, leaving Fever fans giddy with anticipation that they had found their cornerstone player to build around for years to come. However, in the 2024 season, something just wasn't right with Smith. It seemed like she hit a wall, and her game took a sharp decline that left everyone baffled. This Smith, who was once a defensive force, is now looking lost on the court, making easy layups that used to be automatic clanking off the rim, and let's not even talk about those free throws.
Many people in the fan base don't want her on the team.
The player who was supposed to be the Fever's go-to option was sitting on the bench when the game was on the line, demonstrating a fall from grace. By the end of the season, Coach Christie Sides couldn't even trust Smith. Are you prepared to see some startling statistics? Smith's statistics paint a harsh picture. Her rebounding fell to a career low of 7.1 per game, and her scoring fell to only 10.6 points per game. But it wasn't just the numbers. Smith's effectiveness plummeted. She was missing shots at a startling rate, and when opponents spotted her protecting them, let's just say they were licking their chops.
She goes to the wings, gets a fresh start. Hopefully that works out for her. Arike Ogunbowale has already welcomed NaLyssa Smith there. So that's part of this trade also. So you get these, a lot of moving parts here, because that's something a lot of people had anticipated and thought that the Fever were going to move on from Smith. And when Howard came in, it felt like, okay, Howard is taking her spot. And now Smith is no longer there to have a spot in the starting lineup or off the bench.
However, as Smith's on-court difficulties grew, so did the annoyance of Fever fans. Social media was ablaze, and not in a positive manner. Smith ended up in the midst of various issues that only made things worse. It seemed like everything that could go wrong for her did.
Ow!
Oh, I'm sorry.
You poked me in the eye. You're extra. You did.
I did not poke you.
Did you do it on purpose?
I did not poke you in the eye.
Did you do it on purpose?
I got hit in the knee. That was my reflex.
It looked like you were just laughing.
With Caitlin Clark's arrival and Aaliyah Boston's rise, let's now discuss the elephant in the room, the Fever's new direction. Lexi Hull and Kelsey Mitchell-Smith, who had once been viewed as the future, now appeared to be a relic of the past as Indiana moved toward a more dynamic, versatile style of play. Her struggles to adapt were painfully evident, and it became clear that a change was required. Smith's deteriorating skills and a questionable fit made her look like a square peg in a round hole. Think about it. The Fever needed players who could shoot, defend multiple positions, and keep up with the fast pace of modern WNBA basketball.
These games, when you talk about championship levels, are won and lost in the margins, and so we've got to be great in the margins. We've got to grow in those areas.
In a mere 3 years, Fever abandoned up on NaLyssa Smith, who went from being a possible franchise cornerstone to a player they couldn't wait to move on from. However, the reason is that it's all about the team's new winning formula, and I can assure you that this is a game-changing image. The world is going to turn upside down thanks to the new head coach Stephanie White's vision. We're talking about a fast-paced, flexible offensive that will leave you reeling.
I think we have a common goal. I think our visions are aligned. I think the way we go about our work is aligned, and it's consistent. And you're going to have consistency, and you need consistency.
This is when things start to get interesting. The front office didn't just dabble in this new strategy. They went all out to find players who could dance to the same beat as Caitlin Clark. We're talking about a high-octane game that will leave opponents gasping for air, and Smith's slow-footed game and poor shooting stand out like a sore thumb in this new plan. The Fever needed players who could run the floor, shoot threes, and switch on defense faster than you can say bucket. And Smith, well, she just couldn't keep up.
It is the most important thing. You got to have somebody that can run up and down the floor and catch those passes Caitlin's going to be throwing.
There was no place for one-dimensional performers like Smith under this new ideology. The Fly Smith was still attempting to play checkers while the rest of the team switched to chess, demonstrating how adaptability, teamwork, and versatility are key components of the Fever's new direction. Let's break it down. The Fever increased their three-point attempts by an astounding 15% last season, giving us the first indications of this revolution. That's not a minor adjustment. It's a complete overhaul. They're not merely following the trends, they're creating them. Now, for the big question, can this new system make a group of talented people into a successful, cohesive team, or will it just be another instance of unrealized potential that leaves us all wondering what might have been? The Fever is not looking back and is placing a large wager that this is the recipe for success.
They add the defense, rebounding, rim running with Howard. They add more shooting and two tough players, feisty players. One player who's going to have Caitlin Clark's back, of course, in Cunningham.
But hold on, there are more entries. The athlete that personifies everything the Fever desires, Sophie Cunningham, is like the final piece of the puzzle they've been looking for. Cunningham is more than simply a player. She's a declaration that says, "This is the new Indiana Fever, and we're here to win." Cunningham is the type of player who improves everyone around her in this new Fever system. She's not just a good fit, she's the ideal fit. She can shoot, defend, and is tough as nails. It seems as though the basketball gods heard the Fever's cries and provided them with just what they required.
In Sophie Cunningham, the Indiana Fever are trading for a multi-dimensional wing, capable of knocking down the three ball.
Cunningham is starting to cook. Cunningham 3 is good.
Cunningham from the corner, locking down defenders.
Several deflections, and this time she gets the steal and the N1 opportunity.
And injecting passion and emotion into the game and into her team.
The contrast between Cunningham being ready to light it up in Indiana and Smith packing her bags for Dallas is striking. Since one athlete is the epitome of adaptability and the other is incapable of adapting, what exactly did Smith say? We'll discuss that in a moment. Fever supporters should be ecstatic that Sophie Cunningham is going to Indiana. Let's discuss why this deal is crucial for the squad. We're talking about a shooter who can light it up from beyond the arc, a defensive nightmare for opponents, and a player with the sort of tenacity that can change an entire team's culture. Cunningham isn't just another player. She's precisely what they've been looking for.
On offense, Cunningham is a floor spacer and a deep shot maker. Each of her last 3 seasons, she's finished top 20 in the WNBA in threes made per minute on the floor among qualified players. And she will join a backcourt that features 2 of the top 5 three-point shot makers from a year ago, Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell.
You may be asking, is Cunningham really that much better than Smith? Well, let me show you. Last season, Cunningham was making three-pointers at a scorching 38% clip, and Smith wasn't even playing at the same ballpark. However, Cunningham's energy on the court goes beyond simply making baskets.
Cunningham's last 4 seasons, she shot an impressive 38% from the three-point line. And among players to hit at least 200 threes over that time, only 4 players in the entire league have shot it better from distance. one of those being Kelsey Mitchell. And Cunningham's ability to space the floor should give the Fever All-Star backcourt even more room to create on the drive than they had a year ago.
Imagine this. With the game on the line late in the fourth quarter, Cunningham is diving for loose balls, taking charge, and frustrating the best player on the other team. She is the type of player who improves her teammates simply by being on the court, and in a league where every possession matters, that is worth its weight in gold.
But let's look at her defense, where in Phoenix, her versatility was on full display. Capable of guarding 1 through 4 in the lineup, she would defend star point guards one game, then be a small ball 4 the next night. As the Fever look to improve defensively from a season ago, her style fits Stephanie White perfectly. Aggressive, in your face, and physical.
However, this is where things start to get interesting. Consider this. In addition to being an excellent player, Cunningham is the ideal complement to the youthful stars of the Fever. Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark, with Cunningham's ability to defend various positions and spread the floor, combined with 2 of the game's most dangerous scorers, the Fever have a trio that can give any team in the league fits. Their shooting will enable Aaliyah to. Are you beginning to understand the wider picture here? The Fever didn't just make a deal. They pressed the reset button on their entire identity. Boston and just acquired Natasha Howard to bask in the glory. Not only is Cunningham a fresh talent, but she has the ability to transform this club from underdogs to contenders. It seemed as though the basketball gods heard Indiana's cries and provided them with just what they required.
This style helps create turnover opportunities and fast break chances for her teammates, which underscores how she plays with an intensity and fiery passion matched by few. Throughout her career, Cunningham has had a knack for providing energy when her team needs it most. Cunningham is right in the heart of her prime, just 28 years old.
Let's take a moment to discuss Variety's coach Stephanie White has a ton of lineup options because Cunningham can play the 2, 3, or 4. She just needs some more shooting. As we watch this new Fever team take shape, one question keeps coming up. Is this the move that finally puts Indiana back on the WNBA map? The pieces are in place, the potential is there, and now it's up to Cunningham and her new teammates to make it happen. Cunningham's reputation as an enforcer can make the difference between a good team and a great one. She's not just here to play ball, she's here to protect. You can bet Clark and Mitchell will sleep a little easier, knowing they have their own basketball bodyguard on the court.
But will bring playoff experience to the Fever too. She's played in 15 playoff games over her 6 seasons and logged nearly 300 playoff minutes. Key experience for a Fever team hoping to make deep playoff runs for years to come.
Okay, let's get into the drama that followed the trade. NaLyssa Smith couldn't leave Indiana without causing a stir, and she delivered. When word of the trade leaked, everyone was waiting to see how Smith would respond. Would she choose to take the high road or destroy relationships on her way out? Fortunately, we received our response minutes after the trade was announced. The entire story was revealed on Smith's social media accounts, as she was unable to quickly update her Instagram bio to remove any reference to the Indiana Fever in favor of her new team, the Dallas Wings. Despite her desire to move on, Smith couldn't help but give the Fever one last chance with her parting remarks to play for a group that believes in me. Oh, that's the kind of comment that makes you laugh, isn't it? It's like witnessing someone end a relationship.
Just take out. I'm extremely excited for this opportunity. I promise you, Dallas, you won't regret this. That is fine. It's fine to just say that. Not to play for an organization that believes in me. Because they clearly don't. They clearly don't. Do you want to know why? Because I'm saying, like, other teams, there's a lot of teams that would be okay with you playing on the bench.
Let's now take a moment to dissect this. What does this mean for Smith and the Indiana Fever going forward? Smith's abrupt departure and incisive remarks highlight how deep the rift between the player and the team had become. It's like watching the last scene of a movie and realizing the main characters weren't meant to be together in the first place. It's a clean break. They've moved on to players like Sophie Cunningham who fit their new style. But for Smith, this may be a game changer for her career. This is where things start to get very interesting. Smith's antics on Instagram went beyond simply updating her bio. She also replied to a comment regarding her quick profile change. It's obvious that she's thrilled about her new opportunity in Dallas, but is this the kind of professionalism you expect from a player who should be a franchise? Foundation.
Obviously, it's a shot at the Fever as she's leaving, but it's like, you don't do that. Just make things easy for yourself. Just in general, NaLyssa, make things easy for yourself, because ironically, you're probably not going to start. Like, you were a starter at the Fever were replacing you as a starter. You're probably not going to start.
Fever fans' reactions to Smith's departure were mixed. While some expressed relief on social media with remarks like, "Finally free of NaLyssa Smith, thank God," others noted that her performance had fallen short of expectations, serving as a harsh reminder of how quickly things can change in professional sports. Basketball analysts weren't holding back either, pointing out that criticizing your former team in such a way isn't exactly a smart move. It's the kind of behavior that can follow a player around the league, you know.
I don't see the point in like calling out your ex-team. Like, I really don't see the point in it, because I'm like, there might be a stage sometime where you might have to go back to the Chicago Sky, or sorry, to the Indiana Fever. There could come a stage where it's like, you don't want to burn bridges, realistically. And by the way, this is not a shot. There is no chance this is a shot, by the way, at any of the players. NaLyssa Smith got on really well with the players. That whole team was a really tight-knit group. It was a shot, or possibly at Christy Sides, with what Christy Sides did, but also a shot at the new people coming in, because she was really excited for Stephanie White, and she was excited with the way the Fever was going. The Fever had no intention. Like, we all knew from the start, she was protected to be traded.
As the dust settles on this historic trade, it's evident that the Indiana Fever have taken a huge leap towards contention. By trading Smith for Cunningham, the team is assembling a team with the right attitude, the right skills, and the right mindset to compete at the highest level. Fever fans can prepare for an exciting season ahead with Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston. However, the big question is whether Smith's quick Instagram bio change will be the highlight of her Wings career, or if her career can be revived in Dallas. Leading the charge are Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull. The front office has demonstrated that they aren't scared to take risks, and that dedication to winning will pay off handsomely. As for NaLyssa Smith, we wish her the best in Dallas. Sometimes a player needs a new beginning to rediscover their game. However, for the time being, all eyes are on Indiana as they prepare for what might be their most exciting season yet. If so, let us know in the comments, subscribe, and enable all notifications so you don't miss anything. We'll see you in the next one after you click the video on the screen.